Okay, boy, Tov. Today I want to share with you such an incredible hashgacha that happened to me yesterday. So yesterday I had one of the biggest questions that a Rav usually has, or not usually, but could have, and that's the brain dead shaila. And the story is amazing also is because a lady that's not yet from calls me up. She got my number from someone, and the sweetest neshama, she tells me, listen, I'm looking for guidance, and my husband is in good Sam, and he had a massive heart attack, and right now, and the way it was put to me was that he's basically, there's no activity in the brain, and he's basically hooked up to everything else, to a machine, and she wants to know what the right thing to do is. So I've had the question before, but again, you have a question like this, you got to review this question, and I went through, there's a beautiful sefer that has all the different opinions, and the reason why it's so complicated, and it's actually very important to re-study the shaila, is because even amongst the greatest poskim, there was change of minds. Ad kedei kach, Moshe Feinstein, Zichron Livacha, the Gdolei poskim, he himself, his tshuva was contested what exactly he really said. Machlekes. Then you have a Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Zichron Livacha, my favorite posek. He himself, in one place, it's mashma that he said, of course, brain dead doesn't mean dead. And on the other hand, his doctors and people that are very close to him said no, that he held that it's considered being held, breathing based on the machine is not considered really being alive. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Then I saw that Rav Moshe Sternbach, who today is really almost like one of the main poskim and of this generation, and really in a shaila like this, you should go based on the Achon that has the most knowledge. He himself has a stira. One tshuva, he says that living on a machine, breathing on a machine, is not considered alive. Yet on a later tshuva, it says in the 6th volume, it says that Avada is considered alive. So, lo and behold, Rav Moshe sent me I had a text. Rav Sternbach wants to speak to me. Now, it's his son and his grandson. His son's also an incredible Talmud Chacham. So he came to my house last night, and because I was going to go back to the hospital and check out the patient with a doctor that's in Good Sam. Mamash, a special doctor, Dr. Fleischner, Mamash at Tzaddik. And that in itself is the whole story. Anyway, so Rav Sternbach came. Really, he was coming to help out. I was going to help him fundraise for his yeshiva. But I said, Mamish siyata dishmai. And he told me, him and his son told me exactly what his father held, that initially, based on the information that was given to him, Hitaka held that it wasn't considered really alive. But now, today, especially today, that they found that even when you think that, like we were discussing, that the brain has no activity, it does have activity. It's just that the machines are not really picking it up. So anyway, the end of the story is that, and I went back last night. I went last night to the hospital around 12:30 a.m. Then I'm driving to the hospital and thinking to myself, how am I even going to get in the hospital? You don't just come visit patients 12:30 in Good Sam. But Baruch Hashem, Dr. Fleischner is actually the head of the emergency room. And I texted him and he got me in to the emergency room, and we went and we studied the case. And we saw clearly that right now, there's for sure brain activity, there's seizures and everything else. So the chiddush, first of that in itself, is an amazing hashgacha, and right now things are status quo. And Taka Yishav Ufur Shlema, his name is Yeshaya Cheskel Ben Sor Rivka Mamash, a Hamish family that just became reformed simply because of being disconnected. But what also my wife added to this, there's a famous story just to appreciate, because usually by reform and someone that's not following the Torah and doesn't have guidance, and especially by doctors today, the thought process is that you're doing a favor by disconnecting someone from a ventilator and everything else because they're in pain. So, and that's really, and really, if you don't have Torah, you think that that's the emes. Sounds like a very good svara. So, however, we have a different understanding. Once we consider him alive, we have a different understanding that every moment of being alive, besides being alive, is so precious, but we don't know what it's doing. And my wife told me that her teacher said, I always heard the story, but this is at least the earliest source I could have. Her teacher once came back to class and said, you should know I was by a wedding. A lady came to me and told me, she's a wife of a doctor, and she said, I want to tell you a story. She said that there was a doctor, her husband, who was not frum, was not connected to Yiddishkeit. And he had a patient. And the patient was connected to a ventilator, and he felt Rachmanus. So he said, we're going to disconnect. 2 weeks later, the soul of this patient comes to him in a dream and tells him, you should know, what did you do? And the doctor's like, what? In the dream, of course. And the patient says, I had 2 more weeks to live, and those 2 weeks I was going to have an atonement for everything. I was going through a whole process of purity, and I was going to be, and now I have to go to Gehenna and purity. All the suffering in the world to come is much worse. So the doctor was so, obviously in the dream, he says, what can I do? So he said, you have to tell the story to everyone. And therefore this was the doctor's wife was telling my wife's teacher the story. So it just shows you how with Torah it's a whole different perspective. And also the Rebbe should give Taka this person a for Shalema. And we should have a lot of chizuk from this.